All right, so we are back, and finally, it's time for Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury fight. God, I've been waiting 2 years for that, but we're finally here, baby. I hope you guys are ready. Content is going crazy this week, and speaking of that content, if you missed the announcement on Twitter, guys, we're doing a W.A.D.E concept watch party this Saturday and Sunday. And no, I didn't misspeak. I mentioned both days on purpose because this one is extra special, extra long, like a W.A.D.E concept video intro, and you thought I was gonna say something inappropriate. But much like my bedroom life, we are going 18 hours on this live stream. That's right, I want you all to be here 8 p.m. Pacific on Saturday night. We are gonna stay live until the end of Jake versus Tommy on Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. 18 hours, we have guests, we have games, we have punishments, we have predictions, we have watch-alongs, everything planned and ready. So I'll see you guys there. This one is going to be extra special. But like I said, it is Jake Paul versus Tommy fight week, and both guys are starting to come out with interviews, and today's video is a look at the specific mindset of both guys. We're gonna take a look at an interview that Jake's recently done and one that Tommy's done and see how they view each other and how they view this fight, because they're very different, like completely different, and someone's right, someone's wrong. The question is, who? We'll find out on Saturday, but we may get an idea just from hearing these words. I have a feeling that someone's fallen into a trap. What do I mean? The breakdown. Let's go. All right, so first off, this is Jake Paul and Tommy Fury's supposed face-off that Tommy just didn't show up to, like me at basically every mandated jury duty I've ever had. That's off the record, by the way. Please don't arrest me. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I just can't stand sitting in an 80-year-old courtroom. But anyway, yes, this is supposed to have been the face-off. Tommy was a no-show. Jake turned into a one-man show here, and yeah. Let's take a look. Yeah, we remember this face-off. Go noggin to noggin. The two Rams locked horns.
Looks like they're gonna kiss.
And then Jake hits him with the, oh, you don't touch the man on his cheek, because that'll send a Fury man. Who's a fighting man? That'll send me loyal. And there it goes. Oh, Jake actually went for the throat. I don't think I saw that last time. And there goes Tommy pushing around. There goes the security pushing off. Don't push me. You don't push me.
Yeah.
So Tommy did not show up for the face-off recording. And again, I will say that Tommy not showing up to these things, it's disrespectful. We've talked about it, but it's also a mind game for him. It's also his way to basically play his version of the A side and say, Jake doesn't get to determine what I do. I'm not gonna play by his rules. I'm not gonna do the things that he naturally does well, which is talk before fights, get into an opponent's head, and or just give him the time of day, right? It's Tommy's way of saying, you're not the only guy here. I'm gonna do exactly what I want to. And that means not promoting his own fight, which is kind of crazy, but at the same time, if he's not very good at those things or he just doesn't care to do them, fair play. If he's not obligated to do it, why show up and do it? And also, the guy did just have a fucking kid, so I get it. You know what I'm saying? He wants to go back home, be with his family. Understandable. As long as he's training ready for the fight, that's all that really ends up mattering.
You're used to this now.
You know what? It happened with your brother.
The more that I look at Jake, I can't help but think of Machine Gun Kelly, aka Machine Gut Belly. We know this already, but Jake's in better shape this time around. He's rocking Prada, so fair play to him. But it's like a crossover of Ellen DeGeneres, Machine Gun Kelly, and I don't know, one of the Duck Dynasty guys with that beard. I don't know. It's a crazy crossover.
This is the face-off. Jake, as you can see, we were supposed to have another man in the room. Unfortunately, Tommy's gone home.
I don't think he wants to sit here and engage in these types of conversation. I think he's mentally weak.
Here's the thing. I agree with Jake there that he doesn't want to sit across from Jake and engage with him. I don't know if it's more mental weakness or mind games, right? The way that Jake's obviously going to look at it, like this guy can't handle the heat of sitting here face to face with me. So obviously there's something in his head telling him he's a little scared of doing this interaction. My point of view on this is that Tommy just doesn't want Jake to control this narrative of what's going on in the fight and or have to go back and forth with something he deems to be beneath him. This is a reoccurring thing with Tommy and the Furies heading into this fight. The entire buildup, the entire Jake Paul bets on the line, back and forth, content creation and promotion is beneath them. That's what Tommy thinks. That's what John thinks. I think Tyson's on board with it, but those two do think they're above it, and that's why you don't see him doing these things. I think it's highly disrespectful to not promote your own fight, but Tommy doesn't do these things. He's not a quote-unquote content creator like that, or at least not the way Jake is. So he's not comfortable doing it. He thinks it's a little silly, thinks it's below him. That's why he's not doing it.
You sized him up. What did you make of him? What did you make of the shape he's in 4 weeks out?
No, he's always ripped. He's kind of built like a turtle. Like
I guess I get what Jake's coming from, because Tommy does have a shell. Like his back is built. I talked about it in one of my videos, like an anterior pelvic tilt. It's like his pelvis is tilted forward, but his back is like tilted back. So he kind of walks like this. He's got those big shoulders out like that. He's genuinely a big dude. Like, he's jacked. I've seen him in person. He's jacked up, but his build is so odd. And to be honest, it's a kind of a perfect build for boxing. Like, he's got some of the longest, lankiest arms I've ever seen for a guy his height. He's got like an 80-inch reach, for Christ's sake. And he's jacked and huge. So yeah, like, I don't know how to describe it, but a turtle is one way.
He's like puffed up or something. Like he inflated his muscles or some weird but
he's got the anchor arms from SpongeBob. That's what it is. My man said he could have inflated him with some other stuff, but we're not going to throw some accusations out there because we could do that for everybody. WADE testing in this fight. Fair play. Both guys are under it.
I didn't know I was taller than him though. I thought he was taller.
Is Jake taller? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, a little bit taller. I'd say like literally an inch and a half. Not that I know what that looks like. I'm just eyeballing it here.
He's got, I think, like an 80-inch reach, and his brother, I think, has the longest reach in the sport, or one of the longest reaches in the sport, top 5.
Legitimately a family of go-go gadget arms. Like, I'm 6'4", but Tommy probably has a longer reach than I do. And I've got a decent little wingspan here, right? But my shit is not anywhere close. If Tommy pops out at jab, the people in the first row better duck or slip, because he's got that kind of fucking reach. And all joking aside, that's why his jab is so lethal and is a big weapon for him. Not only because he's fast, but because he has a natural long reach. It's hard to deal with.
But it doesn't matter if I'm, using my movement and yeah, I don't want to say too much.
Okay, I was wondering. So yeah, no, listen, it's going to be interesting to see what Jake does to get around that reach. He is going to have to use a lot of movement, and that doesn't just mean with his feet, his head movement, right? Changing his body level, giving Tommy different looks of entry, right? Those are going to be things that are key, because if you show Tommy or any boxer that's seasoned enough the same patterns over and over, they're going to pick up on it, and they're going to make you pay.
Is this the biggest fight of your career? You've headlined some big shows, but there seems to be a buzz about this fight. There seems to be a desire to watch this fight. Obviously, it's in Saudi. A lot of big fights, heavyweight title fights have been over in Saudi.
In terms of what it means for sure, the fact that he's a professional boxer and we're in the sport of boxing, and the buildup has been years and years. It's almost like we've gotten
crazy. This is August of 2021, or I think so. That's how long the seed has been planted. The Joey Diaz voice. That's the seed! That's the... And he's right. The reason this is such a big deal, and the reason Jake came back to this fight over and over and over, it wasn't because of Tommy. It was because of the name. Jake understood, and you hear him say it there, Tommy's a pro boxer. That's one thing that people have said Jake can't check off his list. And he's killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It's not just a pro boxer, but it's the brother of the baddest man on the planet in the boxing realm, the heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. That's why Jake came back to this fight. It could have been a lot of guys that are pro boxers with a decent enough name, but Tommy's name, specifically his last name, the legacy behind it, is what Jake wants. He's looking to snatch that Fury name. And again, Tommy will be irrelevant. It'll be that last name. Jake Paul has a win over a fighting Fury. That's the big sell.
What's your relationship like with his dad?
I have nothing against his dad. I just don't think he's a good trainer. He might have been a good fighter.
Hey now, this is probably the best take on Big John Fury. Yes, he has created arguably one of the greatest heavyweights ever, but John wasn't what made him the greatest. John didn't bring him to that level. He had to get away from John to get to that level, and you worry about Tommy, maybe in this fight, maybe not, but for his future by keeping John in his corner. I want to hear what Jake says, but that's probably the best take I've heard on John Fury.
But he's definitely not a good trainer, because if he's been working with Tommy for this long, all this talk about Tommy doing this his whole entire life, and then we see Tommy get into the ring and just still kind of look green. What have they really been working on?
Woo! Fact. And this is not, again, to say that Tommy is a bad boxer is just to lie. Like, he's not a bad boxer. But to say that the spot he's in right now with his record, and again, all his experience as an amateur is not the best experience in the world, but he has, 18 amateur fights, something like that. To this point, there should have been those levels gained to the point where he should not be talked about in a fight with Jake Paul. He shouldn't be a guy that we look at and say, yeah, it's a 50-50 fight, right? We shouldn't even be in that conversation. A guy like Vidal Riley can prove that to you. That's what real evolution in the boxing game looks like over a time period. The reason this thing is quote-unquote competitive is because Tommy just hasn't improved. You can talk about Jake not being as good a boxer as Tommy, and you may be right, but the fact that Jake has gained as much as he has in 2 to 3 years, and Tommy doing this since he was 14, has not gained that level, has not taken that step to the next level yet, is concerning. And that's why sometimes it's hard if you're John Fury to see it, but he could potentially be part of the reason Tommy is taking this Jake fight and not the fighting man that he says and Tyson says and Tommy says that he is.
I saw you spoke to Tyson Fury. As we were having our interview, I think he came in. What did you say to him? What did he say to you?
He was just like, this is an exciting fight. Whoever loses is I think he knows that I'm going to win. Because when he was speaking, it wasn't like Tommy's going to win. It was, this is going to be a really good fight, and I have to pick Tommy because he's my brother.
Interesting. What my thoughts were about that interaction was that Jake legitimately thought that the heavyweight champ was throwing a right hand to end his life and gave one of the most panic flails for protection I've ever seen, where he threw up the leg. Like, hey, what's up, Tyson? Don't ever do that again because you almost shit myself. Which, to be fair, I think everybody and their mother would have done if Tyson looked like he was loading up a right hand on you. But it is interesting to hear him talk about the way Tyson thinks about this fight, because Tyson has been, for the most part, disconnected from this fight. Like Jake said there, you don't hear him definitively like, this is how Tommy's gonna beat him, but he does say things like, if Tommy doesn't beat Jake, he might as well stay in Saudi Arabia, not in the Fury family, which I don't know that that's more confident in your brother or just putting more pressure on him without knowing if he can get the job done. That's why I think Jake takes that away, because Tyson also knows how to sell a fight. So him saying all that could just be his way of giving a little bit of air of uncertainty so people actually tune in. They're very smart people, the Furies are. So it's hard to take that one way or another.
There was no supporting words of affirmation for like explanation as to why he would win or how he would win. Or
I know this is not how Jake means that, but when he said words of affirmation, gentlemen in the audience here, take out your pencil and your notepad, because I'm going to tell you a little something about women. The only other time I've ever heard the term words of affirmation is on Hinge or some girl's Instagram talking about what her love language is. So gentlemen, hear words of affirmation, either run the other way or start thinking of ways to tell your girl she's beautiful and or you like her cooking.
He's kind of been forced into this by the fans, the media, his family, and probably Molly, you know, because she's probably sitting there saying, hey, yo, we had a baby. I can't be the one to pay the bills the entire time. Minus taxes, he can only pay for so many diapers.
See, Jake's trying here. This was what Tommy wanted to avoid. This would have set both guys off. I think this would get to Tommy. As much as Jake hasn't got to him with the, you know, your wife is your husband type talk, the Conor McGregor-esque, you know, Molly May is the breadwinner. Talking about the kids, that'll get to somebody. And I think that's why it's probably best that Tommy didn't show for this. But it's going to happen during fight week. Jake's absolutely going to bring it up. It's going to be interesting to see the reaction from Tommy.
What does he do well?
He has natural talent. That's probably about it. He's fast.
100%. 100%. Let's run that back.
He has natural talent. That's probably about it. He's fast and he has long arms. I think he's a bit delusional with his confidence, which can be a good weapon for you if you're so overly confident that you just believe you're going to beat everybody. That's worked for him thus far. But when he gets in there with me, it's going to be a different story.
I actually like Jake's assessment of Tommy there. I think he leaves some things out, like Tommy does have a decent right hand. It's just not as accurate as he needs it to be sometimes, but it is a nice, fast, powerful right hand. It's not ever a power issue to me with Tommy. It's more of an accuracy issue. He doesn't land clean, so guys don't fall. But he's right. Tommy is naturally talented. This is why this fight should not even be made realistically. But what I think Jake's getting at here is that Tommy doesn't work hard. He hasn't worked as hard, in Jake's opinion, as Jake has to get to where he is. And I think mentally, when he says that Tommy is so delusional that he's going to win, Jake thinks of that as Tommy overlooking him, whereas Jake does possess some of that delusion as well, and it's allowed him to get to where he is. He has become better and better and better, basically being delusional by telling people he's going to go and knock fools dead, that the rest of us went, you're fucking crazy. Tyron Woodley's not going to fall to a Jake Paul Disney kid right hand until he did. Anderson Silva's not going to lose to Jake Paul in any kind of combat sports until he did. Like Jake said, there's a fine line between delusion and prophecy, and willing something into existence does have an effect. And if Tommy is thinking the same way Jake is about this fight, that's great. But what I think Jake is putting out is that Tommy believes in himself, yes, but the delusion comes from how little he thinks of Jake. That is where I assume Jake thinks he could take advantage. Not that Tommy doesn't believe in himself, but he doesn't respect Jake's ability at all.
He hasn't even been 8 rounds. I've been 8 rounds with 2 different people who are both world champions, who are dogs. MMA fighters are so tough, man.
I don't think that Jake gets the credit for that either. Like, not to like boost Jake up and say, oh, you know, him going 8 with these guys means more than anything Tommy's ever done. But he's right. There is a level of toughness that comes with MMA fighters. You could say that's the reason Jake was able to go 8 rounds with them, because they're not as skilled as boxers. And fair play. You could absolutely be right about that. But the fact that he's gone there, right? The fact that he's actually gone through it with guys that are tough and just will not go away, again, does give Jake a little bit more experience in that realm, where if this fight does get into those later rounds and it is getting tough and maybe Tommy's output is slowed down, and same with Jake. Both guys need that one moment to turn the fight or to solidify it. Jake has been there before. And Tommy hasn't.
Yeah, we got a big year ahead. A massive offer out to Nate Diaz and his team to do one boxing match and one MMA match. The kid KSI keeps on talking, and he says that December he wants to fight. I'm ready whenever, November, September, December, I don't care. Whenever he wants to die, I'm cool with it. Whenever he wants to give me so much money, I'm cool with it. It's gonna be a bank robbery.
Jeez, man said whenever he's ready to die. But before we get into the KSI talk, he slid in that Nate Diaz comment like I be doing on the late night on the gram, but he said he wants that boxing match and MMA fight with Nate. This is something I've been telling you guys for a while. I know there's a massive offer out there for Nate. We're talking 7+ figures to do a 1-on-1, and this is why Jake was getting into the PFL talks to begin with. It gives him more opportunities to make big fights, because now it's not Jake fighting the MMA guy in boxing alone. It's Jake saying, sure, we'll do the boxing match, and then we'll go and do an MMA fight to make up for it. It's genius because Jake believes in that boxing match, he will do them so dirty. He may not have that opportunity to go do MMA, or the fact that Jake does the boxing match first puts in the perception that he is so far ahead of said fighter. Do you even want to watch an MMA fight? But it does entice people more. And then we have the KSI comment, and the man said, whenever he wants to die, I'm cool with it. Jake has taken a different tone with this KSI fight recently. Before it was, I'm gonna fight you for the legacy of the Paul family and to get back what my brother couldn't do. Now it's become, I'm going to commit a bank robbery. And I think he even said in one of the Twitter spaces he was going to kick flip or front flip off his dead body in the ring. Like, Jake's gotten cold-blooded with this thing, and I think it's because he's getting to the point where he is getting tired of the talk between him and KSI. And I think KSI is getting to that same point too, but I think it's finally starting to get to him a little bit more personally that people discuss KSI in the same breath as Jake, and that's not KSI's fault. It's not Jake's fault. They are just intertwined because of where they started, the rivalry embedded in it. But Jake, oddly enough, is becoming fed up with the idea that him and KSI are even close to the same level.
I'm gonna knock him out, and I'm going for a knockout of the year candidate. I won it once before, and I want to win it again. And you're gonna see his girlfriend cry. You know, she's ringside once I knock him the out and he's unconscious.
Again, Jake digging at the girlfriend. I know he wants to make this personal because, again, this is the cerebral mind of Jake Paul. He's making that stuff, those little personal comments on cam so Tommy sees it. And I guarantee you this Thursday for the press conference, you are going to hear a lot more of that. Whatever Jake can throw in at the very last second to get under Tommy's skin, he's gonna do it. Expect that, hey, your girlfriend makes more money than you. You're the most muscled up cuck I've ever seen in my life. Expect, yeah, listen, it's great that you just had a kid, but his first memory is gonna be seeing his dad get knocked the fuck out. Especially if Big John's there. He's gonna go right at the big man and they're gonna talk their shit. But that's Jake's side of how this all goes in his face-off. But Tommy just did an interview with Fight Hub, my boy Marcos over there, and he had some other thoughts on how this fight goes. Let's take a look.
What happens if it doesn't go your way?
As a winner, as an undefeated fighter myself, losing is never an option. Losing never, ever comes into my mind. And if I even thought about Jake Paul, beating me.
Oh, Freudian slip. My man said, if I thought of Jake Paul losing, but he meant to say, I thought if I was losing to Jake Paul, mentally he's locked out already. Jake's already won I'm joking, all right? He just misspoke. Don't do that in the comment section.
There's just no way Jake Paul gets the victory over me.
It will be interesting, though, to see if these words are backed up, because not only now is that John Fury saying that if Jake Paul beats Tommy, he might as well retire. Tyson said it. Now Tommy has said it. If this does happen, and by the way, betting odds be damned, if Jake Paul is to beat Tommy Fury, this is an upset. This fight should not be happening for the differences in experience. And I know that's most Jake fights because he is not very experienced, but this one especially because at least with Anderson and Tyron, he had more boxing experience. That was what made that fight interesting. Combat experience is one thing. Boxing is a completely different sport. If he loses, he absolutely should retire because that tells you all you need to know about what Tommy's quote-unquote world championship aspirations are. Not saying he's going to lose, but I agree with him. If he does, probably shouldn't be doing this anymore.
And I'm going to cut through Jake Paul like a hot knife through butter. And then I'm going to move on. And we're going to see what else is on the table.
What Tommy means is if he beats Jake, he's going to look to the KSI fight. Like 100%, I can almost guarantee it because that amount of money that he's going to make for Jake is the same and or potentially more for a KSI fight. Like, it's no question that's what he's going to do.
Jake Paul is a nobody to me. The fact that he is who he is, it isn't anything to me. He's another journeyman in the opposite corner.
Oh, Tommy admits that he only fights journeymen. There it is, folks. There it is. Not that we didn't already know. But yeah, Tommy accidentally once again lets it slip that Jake's just another journeyman. Fair play, that happens in pro boxing almost always to guys that are on the come up and just starting their career, but just kind of let the cat out of the bag that Tommy has only fought guys that he was supposed to beat fairly easily.
I'm going in there, I'm going to knock him out early, and then we're going to move on. You know, because I'm just going to prove that everything that I've been saying for the past 2 years was right. You know, he's a YouTube boxer, and that's all he's ever going to be.
Tommy says he's going to knock him out early. I don't know, and Face Sensei and I talked about this over on the breakdown. Go subscribe there. But I don't know if that's the right strategy, because you give Jake openings by quote-unquote trying to knock him out. I think he should be very much volume heavy with his jab, but trying to knock Jake out early when he's fresh and he already has decent enough timing in his right hand, especially if he is hurt or if he is on his back foot, does come out and he does duck under shots pretty well. I don't know if that is the right strategy to try to just put Jake out quick, unless, again, it's patient pressure and he just straight up outboxes him, steps on his toes, and we all go home saying, okay, yeah, Tommy was not lying in the least bit. He is a step above and a level above Jake in every facet of the sport of boxing. But if it's reckless, like we've seen Tommy get from time to time, that could absolutely swing a 180 and backfire, and Jake lands something big on him. So again, don't want to underestimate Jake early. Definitely not.
Believe you me, I've had a hell of a training camp. I've sparred hell fighters, you know, undefeated guys, one in, one out, and I've dealt with them pretty good. So Jake Paul is going to be very easy work come Sunday.
It's interesting the way he described his sparring, as he dealt with them pretty well. Guys that would come in, one out at a time. I mean, this is all standard stuff in boxing, but when they ask him why he's so confident, it does feel like Tommy and them are hiding something. Like Tommy has made exponential gains since his last fight. And if that is the case, then yeah, he should be super confident, because I've said it, no one should think this is competitive. But the fact that we do, and the fact that Tommy hasn't gained that level and taken that next step in all these years he's trained, does give you a little skepticism to believe that whatever Tommy is doing in the camp this time around is any different than he's done in any other camp, any other time around, because it's the same team, it's the same sparring, it's the same coaches. What is different?
If he's studying previous fights or doing whatever he's doing, that's a wrong move by him, because he's not. There's an express train coming at Jake Paul on Sunday night, and he's got nothing in his arsenal to stop it.
I don't know how else Jake is supposed to approach the fight other than to try to use what Tommy does in his previous fights. Maybe not the outcome of the previous fights, but using Tommy's performances and his tendencies and things that he has shown to either be strengths or weaknesses as how you study a fighter. I don't know. I'm assuming that means Tommy hasn't seen any footage of Jake ever and done any kind of study on it at all, and that could very well be the case. Tommy could just be like, I don't care what he's doing over there. We're just going to blow right through him. But I don't know that that's true. So I wonder if Tommy is, again, just saying some things that sound nice versus what he actually really means. I don't know.
Unlike Jake Paul, you know, I actually back my confidence up. You know, I get it from somewhere. Whereas Jake Paul, he's done nothing to warrant his confidence. And all his confidence will be knocked out the window come Sunday night.
I don't understand what Tommy's mindset is here. He says he does things to back his confidence up. Like what? That's my question. Like what? If he means like sparring guys that are high-level boxers in camp, Jake does that too. 100 rounds in camp, Jake does that too. If he means because Jake has fought MMA fighters and not boxers, and that's where Jake's confidence comes from, or the fact that Tommy has fought journeymen and mailmen and taxi drivers, and that's where his confidence comes from. You see how it kind of starts to even out a bit? Like whatever confidence Tommy has gotten from his time in the gym, Jake is also getting that same confidence. And I know that people want to talk about it like it's just Tommy is a boxer. And again, that word time gives Tommy more experience, gives him more levels than Jake can possibly attain in 2 to 3 years. Fair play. If that's your reasoning, cool. But to act like that there's confidence built on nothing, EJ Flores and Danny Smith don't just let Jake run through guys and spar. I can almost guarantee you, for this camp especially, they brought in real dudes, and Jake's been having to go with them live, real hard sparring. So again, the confidence Tommy talks about that he has, Jake also gets from his side. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, the self-belief versus the belief that Jake's not on his level is potentially the issue with Tommy.
Anybody who knows boxing, this guy can't fight. You know, he is what he is. He's a very, very, you know, novice-y type of a boxer. The type you get to come in the gym after a few amateur fights, you know, that sort of level, you know. And he's just not at my level, and everybody's going to see that on Sunday night.
He might not be wrong that Jake is a novice boxer, that he can't box, but Jake can fight. There's a very big difference here, right? Jake might not be able to box as well as Tommy, but Jake can fight. He finds ways to win fights. Maybe not Marcus of Queensberry, nice technique and everything behind his jab, but the motherfucker can fight, and he does know how to scrap when it comes down to who wants something more. Tommy, again, kind of contradicts himself by saying, you know, I watch him, and I don't see anything there. While Tommy himself said if Jake is watching my old fights, he's in for a rude awakening.
It's honestly laughable. I mean, he's this big knockout puncher. He's knocked out Tyrone Woodley. He was 40-odd year old at the end of a 20-year MMA career. And he couldn't even get rid of a 50-year-old man in Anderson Silva in his first boxing match. So it shows how much of a big puncher he is. I'd let Jake Paul hit me for fun.
Did Tommy just say that was Anderson Silva's first boxing match? Tommy doesn't realize that Anderson Silva fought Julio Cesar Chavez, which again, I know every time I reference this, they're like, well, that was not the same Julio Cesar Chavez. He was on drugs. He wasn't the same guy. It was still a 35-year-old Julio Cesar Chavez that Anderson Silva absolutely worked. And if we're going to be technically correct about this, yes, Anderson Silva had a long MMA career, and he was old in the tooth. He was 47, not 50, but he was absolutely the most skilled guy either of them have faced, and Jake outboxed him and knocked him down.
Just because I knock him out, professional boxer has knocked him out, that's what I was meant to do. But, he's from the YouTuber world of boxing. Let him stick to that. All I'm here for is to prove that you can't cross that bridge to come to professional boxing. That takes levels, and he's not at that level and never will be. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to send him way back there.
That's not even a bad answer. That's what should be in Tommy's mind, right? It should be, but Jake should not be able to, in this short amount of time, come in and beat or compete with a professional boxer the level of experience that Tommy keeps reminding us that he has. So yeah, this is 100% the right answer. If you're Team Tommy, that's what you want to look for. No personal feelings involved, no emotions, just doing the job of the professional boxing community, and finally sending Jake back to La La Land, where we do diss tracks, the truth videos, and exposing our next opponents. Yeah, it's a circus, but it's our fucking circus, okay?
So they're doing this new concept, like tag team boxing. Have you heard of it?
Oh my Lord, he asked him about tag team boxing. Let's hear this. Shout out Marcos, he asked him about tag team boxing.
No, I'm sorry, but I don't keep up to date with all the bullshit that surrounds YouTube boxing.
It's a wacky concept, but I have a crazy idea. You and your brother,
oh no,
tag team boxing, title run. I think it'll work.
Okay, wrong. Nah, we good. All right, so there it is. You hear both sides of this, and this is what I know this has been a long video, but I'm gonna get you guys out of here with this. Who do you think has the right mindset for this fight? Not saying one person does or the other. Jake thinking Tommy is a bit delusional with how good he thinks he is, and maybe overlooking how potentially good Jake has gotten. And Tommy just straight up saying, listen, this is what reality should be. I am a pro boxer. I have trained. I have done this my entire life. Jake has done this for a couple of years. He's a YouTuber. His skill level's nowhere close to mine, and I'm going to show that on Sunday. Both guys have their thoughts on each other. Me personally, I don't know if I can say just for this case, Tommy's experience in boxing is going to be just enough. That's just going to be it. I do think there's some other factors at play here, but you guys let me know down below. That was the unofficial first kind of interview face-off, since we didn't get one from Jake and Tommy. But like I said, I'll leave you with the question, whose mindset is in the right place? And looking into the fight, who is most ready for whatever happens? I don't have those answers, but like I said, it's fight week, baby! So in the midst of an 18-hour live stream that I better say every single one of you guys at when Jake Paul fights Tommy Fury, I guess we'll find out.